stem cells. That is the epitome of a holistic approach, because the cells connect your body, connect everything, and sends you massive amount of information. It gives you all kinds of peptides, all kinds of cytokines, all kinds of microRNA, growth factors, and it can hit all these different systems all at once. I was like, what could be more powerful than the intelligence that made us, right? So talk about looking at the system as a whole. Now we have the epitome of a holistic approach.
Where I'd like to start, if you're okay with that, is before you became, Dr. Kong, you were born and raised in China.
Yeah, actually on a university campus. So I started out pretty lucky, even though some people say, well, it's a third world country. Well, I was pretty darn lucky that I was born on the university campus. It's considered one of the best universities in China. My dad's a professor. My mom's a high school teacher. So I was born into a very intellectual environment. And the university was built on a older royal garden that was transformed by the American missionaries into a university campus. So you got a combination of Eastern, Western architecture and all these ponds and, the little mountains. And so it's an amazing place to grow up. But do I have, challenges? Yes. I think my own mother was a challenge for me, like a lot of mothers in China, or maybe in a lot of cultures. There is a sense of being judgmental or whatever, people have their own past, life experiences that may not have done them too much good. And then they're carrying that on to the next generation. So that was one of my challenges that, despite her many, many merits, she was very judgmental and can be very harsh. So that's what I had to deal with. But overall, things went fairly well. And I wanted to come to the US to study because my parents were teachers and they have remarkable students and all these great brain power. They tend to leave China, especially at that time. China in the 80s, early 90s was far behind what the West is doing. So it was definitely third world. So a lot of young Chinese were leaving and going abroad to seek opportunities and excitement and abundance. So I wanted to come to America as well because I heard about how exciting life could be overseas, and of course I saw movies and all that. So I wanted to come to America, and I decided to go for it. And I worked very, very hard for it because I was facing bureaucracy. It was very difficult every step of the way. So I knew the final destination, which is to get a visa. So first you have to get a passport, but how do you get a passport? Just that is very difficult. And how do you apply for a visa? And how do you apply for schools? Where do I send my information? And I didn't have even access to the information. The only place that has information of the schools were in one library in Beijing, the Capital Library. And there's in, what's it, Cliff Note? I can't remember exactly which big book. So I was first year in college. I was not allowed to enter that library. So I'm just saying that there are all kinds of restrictions, right? Roadblocks. So my first step is to get to that book and they wouldn't let me in. So I had to pretend. I pulled a 007. I waved my student ID as if that was valid. Yeah. And you had to go in with confidence, right? I was riding my bicycle, I was on my bike, and I just waved my ID card, my college student ID card, and the guard let me in. But still, I couldn't enter into the library proper. So I ended up going behind the library, sneaking around, finding a back door to enter. So I snuck into the library and actually went through the kitchen to get to the library proper. And that's when I actually got to the book and wrote down handwritten all these, about 60 schools that offered scholarships to international students. So that's how I started. And of course, just the application fee, to one school, that's like 2 months of my parents' salary. So I had to write a letter asking them for, please, can you waive the application fee? So that's just step by step, right? Every step of the way, overcome, keep getting closer
Yeah.
to your goal.
You were literally hunting for information.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I
it's
was a
so
hunter.
wild that you can, it's incredible to me that I'm sure when you tell that story, you can remember like it's probably vivid for you, right? Because it's like that. No, continue.
Yeah, I
I just think that
remember, beautiful sunny day, riding my bicycle, pretending that I actually belonged in the library and sneaking in. It's kind of fun, you
it's
know.
beautiful memory when you think back to how that's pretty cool. So continue,
Yeah.
please.
So even with all that, getting my transcripts and every step, it was difficult. And studying for the TOEFL test, the English, competence.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I worked very, very hard. So it took 18 months for me to actually get a scholarship from a university, Clark University in Massachusetts. And I was very confident. I think I was given $10,000 scholarship. I thought that was great. And there were still many missing, to pay for the education, but I was going to work my ass off. I was going to go to a Chinese restaurant, and that's how most Chinese do it, right? You bus tables, you wash dishes. I was willing to do anything. So I could, and I also learned acupressure. So, that medicine and,
Oh,
the
yes.
human body, the human healing, that's already kind of part of what I was very interested in. So I learned
Mhm.
from this master of acupressure. So I thought, oh my goodness, I can do this, pressuring different acupuncture points and through different massage methods and through manipulation of energy system, I can help so many conditions. So why don't I just go to America? I would charge $20 a session.
Yeah.
I got it all planned out, right?
Yeah.
$20 a session. And yes, of course I can get through it.
You could
I
see
get to,
it.
yeah,
You
I'll
had the
be able to pay
vision.
for everything.
Yeah. You're like, hey, got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
I
yeah.
have a plan. I had a plan.
Yep. Yep.
So, and then very confidently went to the embassy to get my visa. My parents went with me. I remember they were hiding the cash all over their in different pockets because we were going to go right to the mall afterwards to get myself a suitcase and also some clothes because I had almost no clothes. I mean, we buy one piece of new clothes a year. So we have very little. So when I stood in front of the embassy, and that's when the consulate, the whatever counselor just doubted me, doubted why I wanted to go to America and doubted how the person that was signing the affidavit of support, right, a financial kind of
Uh-huh.
a
Hmm.
guarantee. It was really just a piece of paper,
Sure.
but legally there's some binding, that this
Yep.
person will take care of you. That was given by my mom's student. So he did not believe that this student of my mom's would be willing to take on that responsibility. So he stamped it, denied. And I was like, no, it's my entire dream, right? Working for 18 months, right? From every step of the way.
Hmm.
It was very crushing. So I was in shock and very, very disappointed. And it's like somebody just slapped me on the face and telling you that your dream is, too bad
No.
you had a dream. So,
Yeah.
so I was feeling down for about 3 days and I got really angry. My anger came from just who are they to tell me no? Like who gave them the right to stop me from where I feel I belong? Of what I think my life should be. They should not have that kind of control. So what can I do? Because I'm pissed off because wasn't going to take that. I was going to do everything in my power to get to where I needed to be. So it was that really the anger that was driving me.
You kind of like turn that into like, you alchemize that into like action and like tenacity, right?
Yeah. So in that moment of anger, I was looking at a situation. The reason I was denied was not because I wasn't smart enough. I didn't have good enough grades. It was only because I didn't have any money. Two, the affidavit of support wasn't good enough to the American embassy because the person that was writing the affidavit was not, you know, I guess strong enough in their eyes. So, which was the hard part, which is know somebody in America that's willing to do that. And I just didn't have access. My families didn't have any connections. We didn't know anybody. The only people we knew were students of my parents, and maybe someone, like I remember a friend of my mom's friend who is a British couple, and it was very it was somewhat humiliating because I remember my mom took me to meet this British couple, and they basically just like, they didn't really have any interest and intention of helping, and kind of looked down, upon us as these poor, resourceless people in this third world country. So that was, I remembered that. I was like, wow, but this is temporary. This is, you just wait. But that's the thing, that I didn't know anybody. So what should I do? My conclusion is obvious. I needed to know somebody. So,
So go
so
make it happen, right?
yeah. So what I
Yep.
did was that I took the yellow pages of Beijing. I
And
was
you're
like,
like, let's go.
I am gonna know somebody, damn
I'm
it.
going to know someone by the end of the day.
So I just, yeah, it's illogical, right? Why would you, like, how are you going to do it? I don't know. Cause I didn't know anybody. I have to start somewhere. So I just started calling the best hotels in China randomly, like in Beijing. I just called one after another. I called different rooms, hoping to find somebody. If I figured if they speak Chinese, I'll ask if they want to learn English because my English was pretty good. And if they speak English, and I'll ask them if they want to learn Chinese. That's it. That was my pickup line.
Hey, but like you said, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out one step at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting,
Wow.
right? That's the adventure. So I no idea who I'm going to run into, what's going to happen. Well, let's do it. So I wrote about it in my book. So I met, a few freaks in a sense, a not very good situation that I got myself into, but I got out of. It was just interesting kind of life snippets. And then I ended up meeting somebody that actually worked for a travel agency. So I ended up calling a travel agency that's inside the hotel. And that's how I eventually got the job as a tour guide to Tibet. So that was, is it dramatic, right? I was trekking for 3 weeks in the Himalayas toward Mount Everest. So going from a college student, with no resources, not even allowed to work, like it's prohibited at that time, and to leading a group of Americans trekking in the Himalayas. And, but people have to read the book to find out what
Yes.
happened next.
Well, and I'm sure along those, you're literally on a literal journey, right? Where you're hitting all these roadblocks. So you're pivoting, and you had said before, you're like, when you had those rejections, you said, just wait, just wait. And so it's almost like it's not almost like it is. It's a refusal to not attempt to figure out the next solution. It seems like you were just like, all right, what next? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I know I'm good at is pivoting, because I believe pivoting is a sign of life force. So the life force within you is so strong. No matter what hits you, you're going to find a way around it.
Mm,
Yeah.
love that.
So it cannot be suppressed. And later on, when I met another difficult situation, very difficult, soul crushing type of situation, I talked about in the book, how do you get around it? Do you succumb? Do you let it, let your spirit die? Or do you actually go for, transcendence or liberation?
So obviously they can, in your book, like you were mentioning, and I'm going to put a link to all of the resources and ways that everybody listening can find out more about you, read your book. But it sounds like there are some adventures there in the Himalayas, which, yeah, some soul changing adventures there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of time some time in Tibet, you know, seeing a different culture. And then eventually, actually within 8 months of my visa rejection, I landed in San Francisco. so, so that definitely, it was faster than I thought. I didn't know how long it was
Yeah.
going to take. Yeah. So that was my first glimpse of the power within me, what I can do to change my circumstances. Because I literally was just one of the whatever, half a billion Chinese women. So with no resources. And how would I make something happen? But you can make it happen, because I remember hearing that if you have a goal and you put it out in the universe will conspire to help you to make it happen. So I thought about it hard. I thought, I need to be in America. I'm going to be there. I just have to be there. And then I believe the universe helped me out.
You had that vision. I mean, I'm sure there, like you said, there were literal obstacles that came in. Do you remember what you were saying to yourself in those initial phases, when those, like, what kinds of thoughts ran through your head to keep you going?
It's I feel in my bones that's part of my destiny. And I'm not gonna, I'm just not gonna give up. Believe me, people around me were telling me, why are you trying? It's just about next to impossible. Like, why even bother? But um, to me, I wouldn't know if I didn't try. So I owe it to myself. And I figured I'll give myself a year. If nothing happens, okay, then there's a different way to go about it, because I was studying architecture at the time.
Okay.
So,
A little different where you ended up, but you started there.
yeah. So I took a year off my school studying architecture. So all my classmates was like, why would why don't you study architecture at the same time of trying to leave China so you don't lose out? What if you can't leave? I was like, I don't want to deal with what if. I'm going to give all my all. This
Yeah.
is what I'm going to do for this whole year. I'm going to get out of this place. and,
That's that's what I'm
that
doing.
has a lot of restrictions that, like, all my life, I've been a troublemaker all my life, to be honest. I had a difficult time getting into these organizations that, the kids of merits get into. So the young pioneer, that's when you're in elementary school until you're 14, and then the young league, that's from 14 to 18. So I had
Yeah.
trouble getting into all of them, because I had trouble with rules, and because I have my own ideas. There are things that I feel are the right thing to do. There are a lot of rules in China, and I understand that's how you govern a country. But to me, just in my spirit, if a rule does not make sense, because let's say I'm not observing the rule, but I'm not hurting anybody and I'm doing something a little differently. Who are any of these people to tell me that I can't? Just in my heart, that it doesn't sit. So I just, then to me, that's not my rule. That's your rule. So that's how I
Love
approach
that.
it.
Yes. Oh, I can imagine that would be extremely challenging as somebody, as a woman with an idea that just simply wants to express them, right? Or wants to cultivate like a happy life. That is adversity within itself. I mean, it's just
Yeah. So I always felt kind of constricted, and the judgment, not only from my mother, but from people around me. And there's just a lot of judgment, because you're supposed to conform. I love Chinese culture. There's so many amazing things about the culture, how wise it is, and how, it has collective wisdom, and understand how to govern a large number of people. I mean, it's a very, very profound culture. But at the same time, it's not a perfect system, just like America is not a perfect system.
totally,
We
totally.
have some really entitled people who are getting very lazy, and that's a whole other conversation. But I wasn't happy with certain constrictions, I feel, to the spirit, and to judge how I should be, that I have to be a certain way and everybody has to be this way, otherwise you are weird. You are, to be suspicious of. It's a lot better these days People are a lot more individualized. They, such as reflected, let's say a garment, right? Now they have plus sizes, right? And it's okay, right? It's okay to be other ways than just being one way. So the culture is progressing. However, when I was there, that was in late 80s and early 90s. It was still, to me, I felt stifled. So I wanted to break free. That's partially what was driving that.
That was yes, yes. And yeah, so you bounced back within 8 months. You said you landed in San Francisco?
Yeah, that was a glorious day. That was a glorious day.
My neck of the woods over here. I'm just outside the Bay. I'm in the Bay Area,
Yeah.
just
Oh,
outside San
really?
Francisco. Yeah.
First day, straight to Golden
Uh,
Gate Bridge. I was like, oh my God, how can it be so beautiful? This Golden Gate Bridge with the clouds weaving through the red bridge, and the ocean, the sailboats underneath. I was like, oh, what a magical place.
a
Yeah. So that
life
was
moment
yes,
after all of
after
that,
all
right?
that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you land and take me through the next chapter. Like, how do the next chapters unfold once you can take a breath? But I'm sure that's not the end of adversity here.
No, so I wrote about it in the book. That was hard. So with all the excitement, so a dramatic romance story was actually part of the story, which made it very interesting, a whole other angle. But as somebody that's inexperienced in relationships, I was 20 years old, didn't really understand how to and evaluate a person and what were the right red flags. So if a person tells me they love me, love me, love me, then they must love me, and that must be, all that matters, right?
Why wouldn't you
Because
believe them?
love conquers all.
Right.
Love
Right.
is all powerful. So
Yep.
we're done. We love each other.
Perfect.
This is going to be amazing because if we love each other, we're going to be able to communicate. We're going to be able to work problems out. We're always going to be trying to do the best for each other. How can anything be obstacles? So that was how I thought. But everyone comes into this world with their own baggage, whether or not it's from their parents or from something even deeper in their DNA. There are limitations in what they can offer in a relationship. So that was a bit of a rude awakening, just because I think I'm willing to give and love, that everything's going to be okay. So I think a lot of young people probably, learn it in their own way in their life. And they're very lucky few that, got a high school sweetheart, and that's it. They're happy for the rest of their lives. And those are very, very, very rare. So yeah, so that was something that I had to navigate with absolutely no support. I was here by myself completely. I had no, not only I didn't have my family here, I didn't want to tell a thing to my family of all the problems, all the troubles. And this person I was with, I was actually married to, was making sure that I had as few friends as possible. And he was very much objecting for me having my own support system. So I was extremely isolated and trying to navigate. On one hand, you experience this person hurting you in various ways. On the other hand, the person keeps telling you how much they love you. So it was, it was very confusing for a young girl with no experience. So that's what I had to figure out, what's going on and what do I do? Because I was slowly dying inside. So because I had on the surface, I had a good life. There was, abundance. There's, yeah, I had resources. This person, is smart, accomplished, and everything seemed fine on the outside. But I knew that if I continued, that would be the end of me. So the only way to do it is to escape, to
Yep.
get out of it. So
Yep.
that's what I did. And that's what I talked about in the book. And
Yeah.
eventually, yes, I triumphed, but not without battle scars. So it did leave some scars on me, which I had to overcome later on I didn't talk about that in the book. I want to write the second book to talk about how I tried to overcome all these, other things that were keeping me down, right? Not allowing me to be living the fullest, happiest life, even though I won these battles. Um, I just need to find time to write the book.
You know, that thing, that old time thing, it's you've got a few things on your plate, you're like, where can I carve out some book writing
Yeah,
in
that's,
here, right?
yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. And I know you go into detail in your book as well, which I'm very excited to dive into myself.
Yeah, the book is called Tiger of Beijing. By the way, people are interested. It's on Amazon. Yeah, there's an Audible version as well, so people can drive and listen.
Absolutely. Well, and I always try to just, whether that abuse is psychological, physical, spiritual, it's something that this podcast too, it's just incredible to me how many people, both men and women, have experienced that and have a story. And you're like, wait, what? You know what I mean? It's always shocking. And then it's even more shocking when it's something that, like you said, it's all behind closed doors. Everything looks fine on paper, right? Or it's fine. And then there's a different reality with relationships behind closed doors, and it takes a lot to realize that because you have the cognitive dissonance and then actually do something about it. And then the post separation abuse. I mean, there's just, and then the recovery yourself after you're out of it. It's such a hard journey. So I just commend you for being able to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I really didn't think I was going to write a book about my story, but when I met somebody in San Francisco after all this happened, right? I was, I got my life kind of back together, back in school, and I met this person who's a ex-police officer, and I told him about this whole story, and he said, "Oh my goodness," he said, "Joy, you have to write a book. You've got to write this book. You need to share this story." So he kind of planted the seed in me that I have to write this book. And that's what happened when I was actually in medical school. I took a year off. I wanted to take a year off. I traveled. I went to Africa. And then I decided I'm going to write this book. So I wrote it pretty fast. I wrote 2/3 of it, I think within a few months, within 5 months or something, every day going to Starbucks and just kind of meditate on life, right? So it was really, really enjoyable until I got to the part of the abuse. And because I keep a journal, so I was going back to read my journal of what happened so I could, faithfully document. And I got so angry that when I was reading it, I thought, who wants to read this shit? Like, who cares? Like, why would anyone care? So I tossed it and I didn't want to finish. So it sat there for 17 years. Until somebody pushed me, after I went into stem cell therapy, became, kind of more prominent in this, new realm of medicine, and somebody really wanted to get me, out there to more people. And I mentioned a book, and this person was pushing hard. Like, why don't you finish it? Finish it. When can you finish?
Yeah.
And I was like, in 2 months. So that's how I finished book. But what's interesting was I was going to write it as a novel in the beginning because I felt this is a story to share. This is not about me. I don't, it's a story. It's a damn good story on its own. So it could be a good novel. But I wrote and wrote, and I was writing in third person. And at one point, I just got sick of it. I was like, I'm tired of talking about she and how she feels. I feel this way. I just want to, it's almost like you want to speak from the depth of your gut, right? You just want to speak, this is how I feel. And finally, I just said, so what that the whole world knows that this happened to me? Big deal. One day I'm going to die. Nothing matters anyhow. So who gives a damn? Let's just write it and show it to the world. This is what happened to me. Big deal. So that's how I just change it to a memoir.
Well, that's super cool that when you started that you were just like kind of more like, no, and then that something comes within you, and kudos to you for following that, because you're right. in the end, who, like, what is it? It's what happened. It's what happened. And it's the human
Truth has so
experience.
much power. Truth is,
It
it's
does. It's so
fascinating.
liberating. So
Yeah.
liberating.
That's why I love documentaries. It's like, show me what actually happened. Cause, you know, there's a lot of drama in real life.
There is. Okay. So and I know, again, like, we haven't even gotten to the chapter of your life where you're working as a doctor and stem cells. And it's already just so evident to me that at every phase of your life, you're encountering obstacles of different kinds, rejections, mistreatment. But what seems steady is like what obviously has carried you through is sort of a refusal to accept that as this is what that's not gonna be your story, right?
Oh,
It's
no.
just not. Yeah. Hey, okay. So
Yeah.
continue on
Well,
here.
we're here for a good journey, right? We're supposed to be here for a good journey. You know, I've looked at life and death very early in my life, and I ponder about it. You know, why are we here? We're gonna die. Like, what's going on? Why do we have to all die? Like, what are we doing here? So, you know, I've decided very early on, I'm here to learn. Right? This is a place to grow and to gain more understanding, to become, I don't know, just to become more enriched. So, so that's the whole point. Then how can I make this life as enriched and interesting and fulfilling as possible? I want to do something that's useful. I've always known myself that I wanted to do something in this world. I've never set my goal as being a mother, or being someone's wife. My goal is to make something happen, to bring something to the world. So I know that's me. It's not everybody's life path, right? I have no
And you
judgment
know
for
that.
people who
Yeah.
just want to be a
Yeah.
mother. That if that
Totally.
fulfills you, makes you happy, wonderful. You're lucky. You know, that's great. But for me, I can't suppress that. It's just who I am. I feel that it's in me. There's this potential, this thing that wants to come out to do things. So, yeah. And then, until now that I can't stop doing things.
You were just
I need to cut it
he wants
down.
to do a lot of things.
There's too
That
many things.
I know. It's a beautiful burden. Not burden. It's just, it's like, I'm only starting to feel that way. Like, I've just now awakened the beast within me where I'm like, oh, I could do this podcast. What else do I want to, and like, how else can I do? And you can't stop. Right.
Well, just wait. It's quite a balancing act of
Yeah.
how to do a lot of things you want
Yeah.
while having enough time and making sure that you are in a balanced place. So that's a newer lesson to me. It's not about trying to get to a place. It's about having already, got to a place or places, but still wanting to do more. But how do you actually maintain your sanity and a sense of peace and joy while doing more?
That is the question, right? And that, I think you are actively answering that question through what you're doing as a physician, I would say, right? That you are, I mean, that inner pull, you've turned into a profession that is actively like making an impact on the world through stem cell infusions, right?
Well, I didn't start out as a stem cell doctor because nobody starts out as a stem cell doctor. So I went to UCLA and I've been fascinated by the brain because before I even went to medical school, I thought I was going to become a professor in neuroscience because I liked the brain. I wanted to study the brain. I thought, how amazing, why do we think the way we think? What are emotions? How did emotions occur? And how do they rage through the body? And how does that affect everything we do? Like it's a bit of a mystery, right? So I wanted to study the brain. And then at UCLA, that's when I realized that sometimes I see a lot psychiatry actually makes more of a difference in people's lives in a lot of the disciplines. For example, in internal medicine, diabetes, I feel, or some other chronic severe illnesses, pulmonary fibrosis, a lot of things that medicine doesn't have a whole lot to offer, to be honest. You go to a doctor, you have a sense of safety because the doctor tells you what's going on. There's a finality to it. Doctor knows, and doctor knows if something can help or something cannot help. So you are given a sense of finality. However, a lot of times the results are not satisfactory because the doctor is not offering a good solution. But in psychiatry, what I've seen is that people are getting a lot better. It's pretty amazing. We can kick somebody out of psychosis pretty rapidly or knock them out of depression. I mean, I've seen that over and over. That's why I went into psychiatry. It was like, wow, I can actually make a difference. For example, neurology, right? I love the brain. I could become a neurologist, but I realized what I've learned is that it's a very depressing specialty. You can exercise all your intellectual powers to diagnose somebody. You can locate exactly where in the brain the problem is. And that's the end of what you can do. So how is that benefiting the patient besides knowing? I mean, that's not really helping their life quality. I went into psychiatry not because I only care about the brain. I'm fascinated by the body, by life. That's why I went into medicine, because everything about the body is a mystery. It's something to be unraveled, is to understand. I mean, how the hell do we get this machine that we can operate and with our consciousness? And how does it do everything? Because a lot of times they do everything without us understanding how it works, right? So it's doing its own thing. So what's going on there? So I want, of course, growing up in China, my mom, my mom eventually passed away from lymphoma, but she was diagnosed with multiple myeloma when she was 43, and everyone thought she was dying. So she died eventually at 75. But when everyone thought she was dying, she was in the hospital, in the best tumor hospital in China, and stayed there for 6 months, getting 6 rounds of chemotherapy, lost most of her hair, and was miserable with blackened veins. And most of the patients with a similar diagnosis on the same ward, they've all died. They've been carried out on a stretcher after being treated with these chemotherapy, very harsh agents. So she got so sick of it, of seeing herself not getting better and people dying all around her. And she said, get me out of here. I'm out of the hospital, so I'm not doing chemotherapy anymore. She went to a Chinese medicine doctor, and she got the Chinese diagnosis, right, based on the pulse and the tongue, and it's a whole other system. And he was also specialized in immune health. So he looked at what my mom's body, her particular constitution needs, and wrote her a formulation of all these herbs and stuff. And all she did was that she came back home every morning. She went to the playground because we live in university. There's an elementary school. She was doing aerobics with a bunch of other middle-aged people. And
I love
then,
seeing that too
yeah,
when I was in San Francisco. I'm
yeah,
like, they're up early.
exactly. So for an hour, she was dancing around. And then she drank this potion twice a day. Nasty, nasty smelling and tasting. Oh, that's Chinese medicine for you. It has to be bitter. Otherwise, they don't think it works. But that's just the concoction. Within 6 months, everything went back to normal. There's no sign of cancer. Kidney function restored to 100%. So she went back to work full time for years, for another probably 15 years. And then she retired and had an amazing, good life. And eventually, she, for whatever reason, our life deteriorates. But that was an experience, of a different medical system. So even though I love science, I've always loved science. Western medicine is very interesting, but I saw what this whole other system can do when the traditional system had caused a lot of people to be suffering and miserable and die. But my mom took a different route and she recovered. So what's going on? What's in the Chinese medicine that the Western medicine didn't know, right? If they knew, they hopefully they would have utilized it. But there's some interesting capacity, like or wisdom in this other form of medicine. So I never forgot that, and I always thought it's very elegant of what the Chinese medicine is able to do. because it's connecting the body through these energy channels, and it's looking at the body, not just, oh, let's just look at your head. Everything's happening in your head, your eyes. Let's just look at your eyes. No, your eyes actually in Chinese medicine connected to your liver. If you start to get angry, you have liver problems, it's going to affect your eye because the energy actually runs through your body. So you don't just isolate different organs. But to me, is a system approach. Not that molecular approach is bad and doesn't work, but it's only a piece of the puzzle. So if you don't zoom out and look at the whole piece, you're never going to solve the problem in a very effective way. So that's what had always kind of kept me. It was like, I want to learn Chinese medicine. So that's what I did in medical school. I took electives in Chinese medicine. I went to work at East West Medical Center in Santa Monica, and I studied on my own. But what I realized was that the Chinese medical system is very complex. The medicine it has its own language that's steeped in history, and in a language before science. And so now we have the language of science, and then we have the language of dampness and and heat and fire. And so all of a sudden, how do you bring the two together? And it was very challenging. So when I was searching and I was looking at integrated medicine and realized that they were using some of the principles of Chinese medicine, of looking at the body as a whole, looking at things that connect everything, right? If you just look at vitamins, it connects everything. All your different organ systems need vitamins, right? One vitamin could control many systems, or hormones. That could be systemic, right? It control different organs, and so it connects everything. So you want to look at things that can connect your entire system. And integrated medicine or functional medicine does that. So that's what I thought. Okay, this is on the right track, because you are able finally to zoom out a little bit. And now I have a way of looking at the body, maybe incorporating some of the wisdoms from Chinese medicine, but in the language that we can understand. We can understand hormones and minerals and peptides, and all these things connect everything. So and now we come upon cells, stem cells. That is the epitome of holistic approach, because the cells connect your body, connect everything, and sends you massive amount of information all at once. It gives you all kinds of peptides, all kinds of cytokines, all kinds of microRNA, growth factors, and it can hit all these different systems all at once. I was like, what could be more powerful than the intelligence that made us, right? So that talk about looking at the system as a whole. Now we have the epitome of holistic approach. So that's when I was like, this is like a dream come true.
It's so cool. I'm literally, you took the psychiatry, the brain, the like that angle. And then you've got growing up and like seeing your mom heal and growing up with the culture of Chinese medicine. Then you've got the education. I mean, it's quite fascinating to see how you've kind of looked at all those different, you've studied in depth in all those three areas. And then it sounds like you came upon this realization that that's the way, right? Through the cells.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Eventually.
Carries it everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, if I just say stem cells can solve everything and that's end all be all, I will be falling into the same trap as traditional Western medicine, because that's thinking that everything, there's one answer to everything. No, it's not. Still, you need the vitamins and minerals. You need the different antioxidants. You need different hormones. You need your microbiome to be operating appropriately, right? If you've got some, imbalance in the critters in your gut, or you've got parasites. I mean, all these things are important. You can't just say, I give you one thing that solves all the problem. That is being a child, that you're not able to think as a mature adult. So, and that's the problem I have, the beef I have with the current traditional medicine model, is that it's still been a child, that is not allowing itself to open up. You don't know what you don't know. The important thing is that you accept that you may not know and be open. So one problem with the current medicine model and a lot of the doctors is that they got their blinders on and they're trapped in the system. But there are also some amazing doctors who are just not satisfied, like me, right? I wasn't sick. I was just searching. I was searching for answers for my patients and also to help optimize my own health. But I know a lot of doctors in the integrated space actually had been sick themselves or had a family member that were really sick. And they tried everything. They went to the best specialists, right? The Mayo Clinic, everybody, and they weren't getting better. What do? Do you give up or do you try to keep searching, right? If somebody says this herb really helps, you don't think you're going to try it? If you really want to live, you may try it and then you get better. So what do you think? If that's happened to you, you're a doctor and that happened to you or your family, the appropriate thing to do is to try to understand how everything, these top gun institutions have failed you, but this simple herb helped, or some kind of simple remedy helped you. You better understand why, right? So a lot of doctors do have that curiosity and are willing to come in and try to understand why. And there are doctors like me who just want to search for a better way of looking at how we can heal the body. But just be careful. Your listeners, a wide range of people. So some may still be trapped in this belief of the conventional medical model. If something is not approved by the FDA, then it can't be good enough. Right. So that's a whole other conversation.
And that's a whole what hey, let's
FDA is
talk about that for a
Believe
second.
me, I was a big fan of the FDA when I was in medical school. I was actually thanking the FDA. I was like, thank God we have the FDA. Of course, my perspective has changed knowing what is going on in that particular agency. So when people are trapped into believing that their doctors know the best, they have to realize their doctors are humans. These humans are groomed to give you drugs, and that's a system. And they're groomed, in a sense, brainwashed to say that other systems don't work because there's not enough evidence. I was one of them. They keep trying to put that in me, right? And I resisted because I know from my own mother that this is real.
That's not the case. You have the
Can't
data.
deny it. Yeah. So, and I've, seen plenty of them. When I was growing up, my mom was always using both Chinese medicine and conventional, Western medicine in our medicine drawer. They're always, both.
Two worlds, right?
They're all intermingled, all over the place, right? So
just like the body, right? Everything.
So,
there's
so she would ask me, like, what's going on? You have a stomachache? Like, what's their symptoms? Because she actually loves medicine. So I'll tell her what's going on. And then she'll go into the drawer and she'll pull out. I never know if she's going to pull out a Chinese medicine or a Western medicine because it depends on what you have. So it's not like one is always superior. So you've got to, I don't bash conventional medicine, but I also am not arrogant to the point where I think that conventional medicine has all the answers.
Yeah. You have to have that growth mindset, right? It's just not, I think maybe people assume, they like, oh, my doctor's probably, open-minded to all the things, right? Like they're doing all the research for me and then but you have to advocate for yourself and do that research, right? And know if your doctor, right? Like you said, doctors are human.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to know unless they're searching, because I was in that system. So if I had not searched, I would have been I kept doing my thing because we are required to have CME. We're required. So one good way to get CME is to go to conferences. What do you get? So either you read articles that's written by the industry or you go to a conference that's sponsored by the industry. So it's all drug oriented and there's no reason to let you skip out of there. Like, why would they want to teach you something that tells you that you don't need a drug when the whole point is that they really want you to use drug? And that's our entire education. At UCLA, right? Half an hour of nutrition and the rest of the time. So we don't care about preventing you from getting sick. That's, preventive medicine. Yes. They mentioned it, that's something it's good. But we weren't taught how to do it. We were told, there's preventative medicine. We really should prevent, but that's lip service because we don't know how to prevent. We don't even know about nutrition. But what we're taught is once the patient gets sick, now you can run all these tests, you can do all these imaging, now you can find out exactly what the diagnosis is. The only reason, well, not the only reason, I guess, but the most important reason, one of the most important reasons to find the diagnosis is that diagnosis will give you medications. So now you got a direct correlation, right? That's the whole point about medications. Every medication is approved for a particular diagnosis. So this is a locked in system. This is why now doing integrated medicine is hard, or people who are doing, selling supplements. It's difficult, even though we know something has been very beneficial for the body, but we can't make claims because claims are related to conditions. So the moment you mention condition, now you're infringing upon the territory of the drug companies because they've spent the money, right? They have spent the money. So that's one reason that they have the advantage, right? They've spent the money. So if it takes average $2.1 billion to take a drug to market, they have a very important mission to recover that money, right? And that will come out at you.
They need to get people on that medication, right? Quick, right? They want to get people on it.
Yeah. And they will love to keep you on it for a very long time. So that's the thing that I realized that was a flaw in the system, and I want people to get better. And just my sense of integrity as a doctor, as I went into this because I really feel that I can help people. So then why don't I just do my job and try to help people as much as I can? And if I see a system as not being very effective, then I'm going to find a different way of helping.
It's like you said in the beginning, growing up, that's their rule. That's not you're seeing something where you're like, wait a second, but that doesn't make sense. Like for you, if you want to just automatically do that, but what about like I'm just so glad that and so grateful for doctors like you. Like, thank you as someone who has no medicinal knowledge other than some classes in high school. I just really appreciate that there are doctors like you who aren't afraid to rock the boat and like be like, wait, but this doesn't make sense.
And it's not without risks. So there's professional attack, right? So actually, when I went into stem cell therapy, my prior colleague, who's a co-resident in a psychiatry residency, was telling people that I lost my mind. I was like, no, I think I just found my mind.
You're like, whatever narrative you want to, I'm going to go over and get busy and help people over here.
And then the fact that the therapies are not in the conventional sense. So there's always, the different entities, governing bodies that could be breathing down your neck. And also it's a known fact in the integrated medicine space that some of the most well-known integrated medicine doctors, especially cancer doctors, have died mysteriously. Quite a significant number.
I've seen some headlines about that. And so that's,
yeah. So the risk is real. Yeah. But it's the right thing to do.
But it's like you said, what are we here for? Like, if speaking the truth, like, I don't think you've been one to shy away from truth. It sounds like you were born with this desire to just find it, pursue it, and let people at least know about it and make their own decisions about what they want to do with their butt. Like, right? Like, give them the information. Like you were sneaking into the library, just let me have access to the information. It's like scary that's really disturbing and not okay that it's just the suppression of information and control and money and
and I got a taste of it. It's just funny. It's sad. You're talking to somebody that came from a country where I felt suppressed, right? So I felt there's certain, like I'm not able to get information. I mean, things are way, way, way better. But I came to this country because I thought, America, what a beautiful concept, because people can actually be free. People, all races come together. They actually learn to get along together. They respect each other. We're this melting pot and we can express ourselves. We can be free to speak without repercussion. But guess what happened during COVID? I did not feel that I could actually speak my mind. my channel probably would be shut down. I mean, I had one video taken down. I got a strike, um, for, because of one sentence of speaking our mind. So I've known, yeah, unfortunately, so it's everywhere. It's everywhere, and my bubble was burst.
You're like, no, not here, man. Come on. And it's a reality that we need to talk about and keep it real. And if we want this country to be a place where information flows freely, you got to call out when someone's censoring. I mean, that's my worst nightmare, is being censored. Like, I'm a chatty person with a lot of opinions, and I like to hear. That's the beauty of this country, is like being able to freely discover information, debate it. What do you think? Let's test it. Let's try it. Right? But that corruption of the
That's
human.
what makes it exciting. That said, I'm still very grateful and appreciative that I'm here, not just because that there is a lot of level of freedom, and it does allow people to reach their dreams, because I have done, something wonderful in my life to reach for that American dream, right? I actually achieved it. So the country gives tremendous opportunity. It allows you that latitude. You can be anybody. If you want to go to school, you can go to school. That's
Right
not
now,
the same.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not true in every country. In China, you bust your head open to try to get into a college because the competition is so high. The year when I was entering college is 1 in 7 of the high school graduate can go to college. Everyone wanted to go to college, right? And my year was the easy one. The year after me was 1 in 13. So just because you want to be a college student doesn't mean that you can get in. And it's very limited on what you can choose. But in the US, that's why I majored in photojournalism when I first came here. I
Yeah.
was like, I can be anything I want. So it's amazing. It's amazing. There's
Beautiful. It
still
is
a lot of
beautiful.
wonderful thing about this country. And the fact that I can do stem cell therapy in this country freely, I have to thank the system, because the system has certain protection of doctors who are like me. What we're doing is that we're providing tissue transplant, because we as doctors are able to transplant one person's organ or cells into another person. That's part of the practice in medicine. So because of that philosophy and that approach, I'm able to do it. And look at how many people I've helped. Look at how many doctors I've trained and how many people they have helped. So we're creating a wave
Beautiful.
because
Yeah.
of this latitude, because of this, we
Amazing.
can do it. But that's not true in every country.
It's not with, you're grateful to have that opportunity, yet it doesn't come without its adversity within any system, right? Like, but what a beautiful country that we can have that. Like, we need to be grateful, right, for that. And I think it's incredible to hear that what you're doing is having that ripple effect where you can actually, like, fascinating the science behind it, and that's like, we could talk for hours about it, but again, I think it comes down to like being able to have information freely flow and being able to have that curiosity. And if like a government or a body is suppressing that, it's gonna change the whole world. It's so I commend you for taking on that and having that courage, because it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to bear that kind of criticism and sort of attacks when you know what you're doing is helping.
Yeah. 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 God made me a rebel for a good reason.
Hey,
So,
you know what? I think, and I'm only beginning here, but just through the podcast, you see that the human spirit can withstand quite a lot, right? I mean, if you've got, not to say that it's, not extremely difficult at times, but what I have learned, and what I think you're a testament to your journey is showing me, that tenacity and that will and that spirit can get you a hell of a long way through like a lot of really, really hard stuff.
yeah.
Is there any sort of message you'd like to leave just with our listeners about anything that you've said, any kind of parting words for us.
Yeah, keep searching. So people, when I have gone through, actually, when I talked about having battle scars after winning battles,
Yeah.
it's very real because I've dealt with depression. Of course, I come out at the other side winning, but I remember actually in medical school, that's when I first really kind of fell into, I felt very down to the point where I thought I was 29 years old. I thought, I don't think I will ever be happy again. I just don't see how because I was stuck. I was stuck in my mind, in my way of looking at the world. So if I didn't think, because I thought I wasn't good enough. So then how do you get out of that? Was there a solution if I just wasn't good enough? But what about why you thought you weren't good enough? Like, what is good enough? So that's that switch, right? You have to get over that gear, but you don't get over it if you don't keep searching. So I kept searching. I kept reading books. I went to a psychologist. I debated with him why I wasn't good enough. He told me why I was. We were fighting it out. And, but then eventually he made me see, why are we here? Who gave you the idea that you weren't? Like, what's good enough? Like, so we're just going through, yeah, you have to peel the onion. So eventually you get over that. And that's one hurdle. Psychological hurdle is one, right? And trauma, that's another, like how to deal with your pattern of reacting. And then physical barrier. If you're not having the right nutrition, the right elements in your body, then you can't feel good. How do you overcome that? And another thing really important is spiritual. Like, do you know why you're here? If you think you're here just to grab anything you can before you go, that you're going to just for physical satisfaction, then you're going to have a whole different way of living. Some people live that way. I think I'll just, eat the best food and, have the best sex and, have best people on my arm to show off. That's a different way of living than other ways. And why would you live in another way? Like, do you have a reason to do that? So do you have any spiritual connection, any reasons why you will do something to help the world, to connect with others in a meaningful way? So all that has to be worked out. And that's layer by layer by layer.